The kingdom of Valestria was a realm of two worlds. Inside the high marble walls of the high citadel, the lords and ministers lived in unimaginable luxury. Outside those walls, in the sprawling lower slums, life was cheap, and a woman's life was worth nothing at all. Lady Seraphina was the only daughter of Lord Chancellor Vane, the king's most powerful minister. Endowed with a brilliant mind, Seraphina had spent her youth secretly devouring her father's libraries of law, philosophy, and history. Yet, to the court, her intellect was invisible. In Valestria, women were forbidden from holding public office, practicing medicine, or even owning property. Their only lawful purpose was to be silent, decorative brides. One freezing autumn evening, while riding through the city slums in her guarded carriage, the illusion of Seraphina's world shattered. Outside a filthy, loud tavern where soldiers and merchants gambled away their gold, a desperate peasant dragged his weeping 17-year-old daughter into the mud. He handed her over to a brutal tavern keeper to settle a gambling debt. The girl was chained like a beast of burden, traded for a pouch of silver coins while the surrounding men laughed and drank their wine. Seraphina ordered her carriage to stop. She stepped into the freezing mud in her silk slippers, demanding her guards release the girl. But the tavern keeper sneered, waving a lawful parchment. "It is legal trade, my lady," the man spat, mocking her. By Valestrian law, a man's wife and daughters are his property to sell. Go back to your castle. The affairs of men are not for a woman's eyes. Seraphina looked at the chained girl, whose eyes were filled with absolute hopelessness. At that moment, something inside Seraphina broke and was replaced by an unbreakable steel resolution. Seraphina realized that pleading with the corrupt men of the court would change nothing. If the law viewed women as property, she would build a sanctuary outside the reach of the law. Using her generous monthly allowance and selling her own priceless jewelry, Seraphina secretly purchased an abandoned, crumbling textile warehouse in the darkest corner of the slums. By day, she played the obedient, polite daughter in her father's mansion. By night, draped in a simple, coarse brown wool cloak to hide her identity, she became the savior of the forgotten. She named the sanctuary the Iron Hearth. She bribed city guards to look the other way and began buying the freedom of women enslaved for debts, rescuing abused wives and sheltering abandoned orphans. But Seraphina gave them more than just food and shelter. She gave them power. Inside the hidden brick walls of the hearth, she taught illiterate peasant women how to read and write. She invited outlawed elderly midwives to teach them the arts of medicine and herbal healing. A mind that can read cannot be enslaved, Seraphina told the gathering of hundreds of women by candlelight. They took your voices. Here, we learn how to shout. For 2 years, the Iron Hearth operated in the shadows, saving thousands of lives. But Seraphina knew that secrecy would not cure the disease of Valestria. The laws themselves had to be broken and rewritten. When the position of High Magistrate of the city court became vacant, Seraphina did the unthinkable. She drafted a comprehensive, brilliant legal scroll proposing a new code, the right of dignity, which would outlaw the trade of human beings, grant women the right to own businesses, and allow them to practice medicine. She boldly walked into the Grand Royal Council, a chamber where no woman had set foot in a century, and placed her petition before the king's regent, Archduke Cassian, a cruel, arrogant man who spent his days intoxicated and surrounded by mistreated courtesans. The council chamber fell dead silent. Then the lords erupted into deafening mockery. Archduke Cassian laughed until tears streamed down his face. He picked up Seraphina's scroll, carelessly tore it in half, and threw the pieces onto the marble floor. "A woman playing at law?" Cassian sneered, taking a sip of wine. "What is next? A horse commanding an army? Lord Chancellor Vane, take your unruly daughter home before I have her whipped for trespassing in the halls of men." Seraphina did not flinch. She stood tall amidst the laughing, drunken men of power. "You laugh today, my lords." Her voice rang out, clear and steady. "But the foundation of your palace is built on the backs of the women you despise, and the earth is beginning to tremble." Seraphina returned to the slums, her heart burning with righteous fury. If the regime refused to recognize their humanity through words, they would feel it through action. Seraphina organized the greatest civil defiance in Valestria's history. She united the women of the slums, the servants in the grand estates, the cooks, the weavers, and the nurses. On the morning of the winter festival, the most lucrative day for the city's corrupt ruling class, Seraphina gave the signal. Every woman in Valestria stopped working. The looms in the textile mills went silent. The kitchens of the noble mansions went dark. The markets were stripped of bread and clean water. The nurses abandoned the military infirmaries. The women retreated to the barricaded slums, standing together in absolute solidarity. Within 48 hours, the proud, arrogant capital of Valestria was paralyzed. The lords, who had never washed a dish or baked a loaf of bread in their lives, were left starving in their cold, filthy mansions. The taverns ran dry. The economy ground to a complete halt. Seraphina stood atop the wooden barricades of the slums, surrounded by thousands of women holding torches and farm tools. They were no longer victims. They were an army of citizens demanding their birthright. Humiliated and enraged by his inability to break the strike, Archduke Cassian chose blood over justice. He declared Seraphina a traitor to the realm and ordered 2,000 heavily armed royal mercenaries to storm the slums and burn the iron hearth to the ground. The attack came at dawn. The soldiers breached the wooden barricades with battering rams, swinging heavy iron swords at the unarmed civilians. The streets of the slums turned crimson. Yet the women did not run. Inspired by Seraphina's teachings, they fought back with whatever they had: boiling water, heavy wooden looms, and paving stones. Seeing her people being slaughtered, Seraphina knew what she had to do. She pushed her way to the very front of the battle line, stepping directly into the path of the charging mercenary commander. She pulled back her brown hood, revealing her noble face and her rich auburn hair. "Stop!" Seraphina screamed, her voice echoing over the clash of steel. "I am the one you want. I am the architect of this rebellion. Let my sisters live, and I surrender to the crown." The fighting paused. The mercenaries, recognizing the Lord Chancellor's daughter, seized her, binding her wrists in heavy iron chains. As she was dragged away through the ruined, bleeding streets, Seraphina looked back at the crying women of the iron hearth. She offered them a brave, unwavering smile, nodding her head. The seed was planted. Seraphina was thrown into the freezing, lightless dungeons beneath the high citadel. She was starved, beaten, and denied sleep, yet her spirit remained utterly unbroken. On the day of her trial, she was dragged into the Grand Royal Council in chains. Her fine clothes were torn and stained with dirt. her face bruised, but she held her head higher than any monarch. Her father, Lord Chancellor Vane, stood weeping before the throne. He had bowed his head to the corrupt tyrant his whole life, but seeing his daughter's unimaginable courage, the old man's heart broke. He begged the regent for mercy, offering his own life and fortune in her place. Archduke Cassian looked down at Seraphina with cold, vindictive hatred. "You have ruined the peace of this realm, Seraphina Vane. You have poisoned the minds of slaves and women. Renounce your rebellion, kneel before this court, confess your treason, and I shall grant you a life of exile. Refuse, and you shall hang in the public square at dawn." Seraphina slowly turned her gaze to the hundreds of lords, judges, and guards watching her. The silence in the room was deafening. "You ask me to confess to treason?" Seraphina spoke, her voice cracked from thirst but resonating with immortal strength. "My only treason was believing that a woman has a soul. You can hang my body in the square, Cassian. You can burn my books and chain my sisters, but you cannot hang an idea. You cannot kill a truth whose time has come. Today, you strike down one woman. Tomorrow, 100,000 will rise in her place." Cassian slammed his fist on the throne, his face twisted in rage. "Hang her at dawn! Let the crows feast on her arrogance!" The morning air was freezing as Seraphina was led to the gallows in the center of the Grand Plaza. The square was packed with over 50,000 people. Archduke Cassian had ordered the public execution to instill terror, forcing the poor women of the city to watch in silence. As Seraphina stood on the wooden scaffold, the executioner placed the rough hemp rope around her neck. She looked out at the vast sea of faces. She didn't see fear in the eyes of the women below. She saw tears, pride, and an intense, burning fury. Seraphina took a deep breath of the cold morning air. She did not weep. She did not tremble. Instead, she raised her chained hands high above her head for all the city to see, forming the hand sign of the iron hearth, a fist holding a silent spindle. "Do not weep for me, my sisters," Seraphina shouted, her final words ringing out across the Grand Plaza like a war horn. "Live for yourselves! Fight for your daughters! We are unbroken!" The trapdoor fell. A collective, agonizing gasp echoed across the plaza as Lady Seraphina Vane gave her life for the dignity of her gender. She was 24 years old. Archduke Cassian believed that hanging Seraphina would extinguish the fire. He was catastrophically wrong. Her death did not bring submission. It detonated an unstoppable, historic revolution. When the royal guards tried to clear the plaza, the women did not retreat. A single peasant woman in the crowd raised her fist in the air, repeating Seraphina's sign. Then another, and another. Within minutes, 50,000 fists were raised in silent, terrifying defiance. The story of the noble lady who gave up her wealth, her comfort, and her life to save the poorest women of the realm spread like wildfire across Valestria, and then across the surrounding kingdoms. Her martyr's death shattered the psychological chains of an entire generation. Within a month, the rebellion exploded beyond anything Seraphina had built. Inspired by her sacrifice, women across the kingdom rose up in unison. They were joined by enlightened scholars, progressive knights, and thousands of common men who had been shaken awake by Seraphina's bravery, including her own father, Lord Chancellor Vane, who used his remaining political power to dismantle the corrupt regime from within. Archduke Cassian was overthrown by the sheer, overwhelming mass of a united citizenry. A new governing council was formed, comprising both men and women of all classes. The oppressive laws were burned in the public square where Seraphina had died. In their place, the right of dignity was enshrined as the supreme law of the land. Years later, a magnificent bronze statue of Lady Seraphina was erected in the center of the Grand Plaza. She stood tall, not as a decorative bride, but with a book in one hand and a broken chain in the other. She had died in the cold dark, but her legacy had gifted millions of women the eternal light of freedom.